Hi class, welcome to our, this is what, week 5, so week 5 live meeting. So remember your second test is due this week. Now also your third test is due next week and your final is due next week. So a lot of stuff are due this coming couple of days now. Wait, I think your let me double check. I think your test is due on Wednesday. Star. Let me see. Oh, also, guys, one the discussion for this week. So the text was missing. I added in there last night, so you can see the text now and answer the questions. Okay, so that has been fixed. Let me check on the exact date for our test. When is due? Alright, sure the date. All right, so exams 2 is due on Sunday night. Your exam 3 is due on the 21st, which is next Sunday. And then your final is also due on the 21st. So both of them due on Sunday night, okay, or next Sunday night. Now, some of you has already finished your exam 3 and the final. Good for you. So which means you're pretty much done with the class now. Just finish your discussion for this week. But everybody else, don't be late, because remember, if you miss your final, there's nothing I can do anymore. Okay. So now let's talk about your second test. So second test will cover chapters 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. So 7. Wait, let me make sure. It's not. Yeah, it is 12. Cover up to chapter 12. Just not my day today. Some of you already finished. The average for class is pretty good for now. So keep up the good works, guys. Now for everybody else, let's talk about what question you're gonna see on the test. So let me open your screen sharing. Go full screen. All right. So let's look at chapter 7 first. So the stuff you need to know on the test. You're gonna see these questions on there. So make sure you know what's a consumer surplus, producer surplus, what's the total surplus, and also know how to find what's your surplus given information like this. So if I give you a table like this or a graph like this, you need to know how to find the consumer surplus. So consumer surplus is the difference between your demand curve and your price line. So that's your consumer surplus. Normally, you're going to see a regular triangle for consumer surplus, but more than often, you're also going to see stuff like this, like a little staircase demand curve. So just find the difference between each level. So for this demand over here, if the price is set at let's say $150, then your consumer surplus will be the difference from 300 to 150, and then 250 to 150, and then 175 to 150. So the difference between the vertical difference between your demand curve and the price line, that's your consumer surplus. Okay, so make sure you know how to find that. And also a producer. So producer surplus, vice versa. So producer surplus is a triangle that's below your supply curve, above the price line. That's your producer surplus. Below the price line, I'm sorry. So above supply curve, below price line, that's your producer surplus. And then make sure you know how to find an area for triangle. Okay, so it's half times base times height. So whatever basis you choose, so the vertical distance times horizontal distance divided by 2, that will be the surplus. That will be the triangle, and that's the surplus for either consumers or producers. Okay, let's see. So total surplus, know what that is. So total surplus is a consumer surplus plus a producer surplus. I think that's it. Chapter 7 is pretty simple, just the surpluses. and make sure you know how to find each one. Now for chapter 8, it's a little tricky. So for chapter 8, let me go back to my page. All right, so for chapter 8 over here is the cost of taxation. Now for this chapter, know what's government revenue. So for this shaded area, that's our government revenue. So with the tax, remember this top triangle over here, that's your new consumer surplus. The lower triangle is a new producer surplus. This triangle on the left or on the right, that's our deadweight loss. That's the inefficiency in the marketplace. And this area in the middle, that's our government revenue. And then your new total surplus is this consumer plus producer plus government revenue. That's your total surplus. And this triangle on the right over here, that's a deadweight loss. That's the inefficiency in the market. Okay, so know that. Let me see what else got to know. I think this is it for chapter 8. Oh, no, it's a Laffer curve. I do believe this question is on the test. I could be wrong. Okay, so Laffer curve, just know that Laffer curve shows you the relationship between your size of the tax and then your tax revenue. And then more than often that if we're taxed too much, we can increase our tax revenue by decrease the tax size. Okay, so know how this curve works. And then that's it for chapter 8. Now chapter 9. Now all this we talked about this last week. So if you have any question, guys, just ask me. Okay. Chapter 9 is on the international trade. Know what's a world price. So no definition for that. Also know what's a tariff. So tariff is the tax on import. And also make sure you know how this graph works. Okay. So let's go over this one more time. So for this market, the world price is 20, which is below our equilibrium price. So for this market, they will choose to import a good. So choose to import. Now, with a tariff increase the price for domestic buyers. So your world price is 20, and if you add a tariff of $10, then your new price becomes 30. So at a $30 over here, price got pushed higher. Then the domestic producer produced more, so they go from 20 to 40 unit productions, but domestic consumer buy less now. So we used to buy 80 with free trade, but with tariff only buying 70 now. With a tariff, your consumers are worse off, producers are better off, government getting more revenues. So this area over here will be our government revenue. And then these two small triangles, these are our deadweight loss. That means these are the inefficiency in the marketplace. So every time you have a tariff, you're benefiting your producers, but the loss from consumers is more than the gain from producers. So overall, with a tariff, the economy is getting worse off. Okay. And then again, before trade, your consumer surplus is all this big triangle, and then producers only the small triangle G over here. And then with tariff price increase, then consumer surplus only become A and B, producers only C and G, government revenue is E, and then your deadweight loss is going to be this D and F. So that's the inefficiency that's coming from your tariff. Okay, so that's tariff. Let me see what else you need to know. Know what's import quota. So import quota is very much like a tariff. They try to limit how much trade we have. But for import quota, it's not an add-on to the price. It's a physical limit. So like saying, for this country, for our country, for the entire year, we can only import 10 cars and no more. So that would be an import quota. The tariff would be just adding on the price. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. Okay, so that's it for chapter 9. Wow, that's fast. All right. Does anybody have any questions right now? No questions. All right, then let's continue. We don't need that right now. Chapter 10. All right, so chapter 10 is on externality, is most definitions. So let me go over it. Let me tell you which one you need to know. Know what is a positive externality. So anything providing extra benefit to the society, that's a positive externality. So public art, education, uh, national defense, those would be all positive externalities. Okay. Um, let's see. So know what's a corrected text and know what's a negative externality. So positive, negative, know what those are. Let me see what else you need to know. Think that's it. Oh, also make sure you know how this graph works. Here we go. So if you have a graph like this, that if your demand curve, you have a social demand curve that's higher than your private demand curve, this would be a positive externality. Now, if vice versa, if you have a like this over here, if your social cost is more than your private cost, then this would be a negative externality. Okay, so know the difference between the two. All right, and then chapter 11. The chapter 11 is on the public good and public resource. It's also very definition. So know what is mean by excludable. That means excluding somebody else from consuming this good. Also know what's a rival in consumption. That means one person's use of the good would diminish the other person's use. Okay, and then know the difference between private good, public good, common resource, and club good. Let me see. Know what's a free rider. So free rider is anybody who enjoy the benefit but don't pay for the cost. There'll be a free rider. Okay, and then really for anybody who watch PBS, who watch Sesame Street, but if you don't pay for it, you don't write a check to PBS, then you're all free riders. Now it's important for this chapter. That's it for chapter 11. Wow. All right, chapter 12. Wow, we're going fast, almost finished here. So chapter 12 is design of a tax system. Let me see what's important here. Oh, we got a question. Let me see, what is it? When the demand curve has definitely when the demand curve shift is always going to be positive externality. Yes. So anytime if you shift your demand curve, that is a positive externality. And then anytime if you shift your supply curve, there will be a negative externality. Okay. Yeah, guys, just keep asking me questions. Let me see. Let's continue. It's my PowerPoint. Here we go. All right. So know what's a average tax rate. Know what's a marginal tax rate. So given your table, you should be able to know how to find the different tax a person pays. So know what's a lump sum tax. Let me see. Oh, okay, no problem. All right. Let me see if I can find a question we can work on. Okay. So let's suppose you have this question on the test or on your quiz. That you have a table like this, and then let's say they will give you an income level and ask you to find out what is the marginal tax rate and what is the average tax rate. And trust me, there will be a question like that. Let me put this on the right. So let's suppose our person's income. So this person's income is going to be $100,000. And then if question is asking for what is the marginal tax rate, the marginal tax rate, you don't have to do much to find the marginal tax rate. Just go to the table and see where the income level is. That's your marginal tax rate. So on this table, that your $100,000 is at this level, so between 85,000 and 178,000. So the marginal tax rate will be just 28%. So it's very easy. Just go to the table, see where the number is. That's a marginal tax rate. Now, if it's asking for your average tax rate, and now we got something to do. Okay, so average tax rate. The first step is to find out how much tax you need to pay. So to find out how much tax to pay, we're gonna take your income and then go through each bracket here. So according to the bracket over here on the right, for your first $8,700, you pay a 10% rate. So for our first bracket, not first step. So for the first bracket, we pay 10% of the $8,700. So it's just 870. Now for the second bracket, we're gonna pay 15%. 15%. That's between 35, 350, and then 8701. That's a 15% tax rate. And then for the third bracket, gonna pay there's a 25% rate between 85, 650, and 35, 351. That's the bracket, so 12,574. And then for the last bracket, for the fourth bracket, there will be a 28% rate. Now for this 28%, we're not going to multiply by the entire 170,000 because that's not how much our income is. Our income is only up to 100,000. So for this bracket, there'll be the difference between $100,000 and then 85,651. That's $4,017. So the total tax to pay. So sum of all this. So total tax to pay. That'll be $21,459.82. And then lastly, the average tax rate. Now for this, you use your total tax paid, $21,459, divided by your income. So average tax is about 21.45 or 46%. Okay, so first thing, find out how much tax you pay, and then divided by your total income, that'll give you your average tax rate. All right, now let's continue. Okay, so know this. Know what's a proportional tax, regressive tax, and a progressive tax. So proportional tax, that means everybody pay the same fraction of income to tax. So let's suppose that if our government says that no matter how much income is, you pay a 10% rate, that will be called a proportional tax. Regressive, that means the more income you have, the less tax you pay, the less rate you pay. The lower income you have, the more rate you pay. That's called regressive tax. For our current tax system, and the tax system for most countries out there, is called progressive tax system. That means the higher income you have, the more rate you pay. The lower income you have, the lower rate you pay. Okay, so that's that. More about that. Okay, I think that's it for chapter 12. So chapter 12 is pretty simple too. Just make sure you know the calculation, and then make sure you know the definition for all the keyword over there. Does anybody have any question this time? No questions? Wow, this is gonna finish early today. So if no questions, we're gonna finish early today. Now again, if you have any question, make sure to ask me either on email or Google Class. Also, don't forget your discussion is due this week. Your test 2 is due this week. And if you finish early, if you finish everything early this week, don't wait. Start on next week's stuff early. Because for next week, you have your 4 chapters, your exam 3, and then your final exam all due at the same time. Okay, so make sure finish everything early this week, and then get everything started early for next week. Okay, all right, if nothing else, let's gonna call day today, and then I will see you guys again next week. Okay, good luck.